Hi, my name is Max, and welcome to the SurveyCTO webinar on pulling data from a preloaded data source. In this presentation, we will talk about what makes a calculate field, how it works, and how to make one. We will then talk about creating a comma-separated value file, or CSV file, which is a type of data storage. Next, we will review the pull data function and how it pulls data from a preloaded CSV file or dataset. We will then learn how to create a pull data expression using the online form designer and see what it looks like in action. Finally, we will take a look at some examples of how to use the preloaded data in forms. First, let's review what exactly a calculate field is. The calculate field is a hidden field. Hidden fields are part of the form, but the enumerator cannot see their value, at least not until they are used in a visible field. They are used to store calculations, like this one right here. Let's say an enumerator entered a value for a field, but you need that value to be multiplied by 2. You can have a calculate field that takes the value of that number and then multiplies it by 2. This value will not be seen directly by the enumerator, but you can use it in field labels and expressions. Something else cool about calculate fields is that they automatically recalculate whenever they need to. Take a look at this form definition. Even though the calculate field is on top, it can still be used. When the second field, num, is given a value, the field on top, times 2, will automatically recalculate so it can be used in a note for the third field and displayed to the enumerator. Let's take a look at this in practice. So first, we'll enter 2, and sure enough, we get 4. If we go back and enter 6 instead, we get 12. So a calculate field recalculates as needed. Let's learn about CSV files and how they are used in SurveyCTO. CSV is short for comma-separated values. They are called this because in their raw form, they look like this. This is what a CSV file looks like in the text editor. Columns are separated by commas, hence the name, and rows are separated by line breaks. But of course, it is much easier to work within a spreadsheet. This is a great file format since it is easily read and understood by a massive number of applications. When creating a new CSV file, many people like to use Excel, including myself, but there are lots of ways to create a CSV file. Use the method that works best for you. If you are creating a CSV file in Excel, be sure to save it in CSV UTF-8 format. This is a Unicode format which can properly store most kinds of text, including non-Latin scripts such as Hindi and Arabic letters. When naming your CSV for SurveyCTO, there are not a lot of rules, but we recommend the name is all lowercase, starts with a letter, and only uses letters, numbers, hyphens, and underscores. The names you see in this list would all be great. Let's go over the structure of a CSV file. In the top row, you will have your column headers, which describe each attribute of the record. Most importantly, one of your columns needs to be the unique identifier column. In that column, there can be no matching data, with each value being unique. Later, this will be what we use to identify and point to each row. We recommend its column header ends in underscore key, since this will improve the performance of preloading. Once you have your column headers and unique identifiers figured out, you can go ahead and add your records with one record per row. The other columns can have matching data. For example, here, multiple people have the same gender or marital status. Once you have your CSV file put together, you're ready to attach it to your form. There are 3 ways to attach a CSV file or dataset to a form. None is better than any other, so you should go with the method that works best for you. I'll be showing you how to attach CSV files, but you can also use similar methods to attach server datasets, but we won't get into that here. You can also use these methods to attach files saved in Google Drive by selecting the Upload from Google Drive tab, but here we'll demonstrate how to attach files saved on your computer. You can attach the CSV file as you create the pull data expression in the wizard. We'll get into more detail later in the webinar, but here's what you do when you get to the right spot in the wizard. Here, I have already opened the module to create a new calculate field, and I am in the wizard to create the calculation. First, click Upload. Then click Select File. Then select and open the file. And then click the bottom Upload button. The file will then be selected. Another way to attach a CSV file is from the Form settings. On the top left, click Form Settings. Then on the right, click the blue Edit Form Settings button. Scroll to the bottom, and where it says Attach Files, click the blue Attach button. And then click the blue Select Files button that appears. In the File Explorer window, you'll select one or more files, but we'll just select one here. Then click the blue Upload button, and then click the blue Save button. And you're all set, and don't forget to save. Finally, if your form definition spreadsheet has already been built, you can upload and attach the CSV file as you upload the spreadsheet from the Design tab. Click a plus, and then click Upload Form Definition. Click the first blue Select File button, and select the form definition. Then click the second blue Select File button, and add one or more CSV files. Click the blue Upload button in the bottom right, and you're all set. Now that we know what a CSV file is and how to upload it, let's learn how to actually retrieve data from that file. You will use the pull data function to, well, pull data. If you take a look at how it's built, you'll recognize a lot of what we talked about so far. We have the source, which is the name of the CSV file we are pulling data from. We have call name, which is the name of the column that has the data we want. The lookup call name is the name of the column that has the unique identifiers. Finally, the lookup val is the unique identifier of the row from which we want data. If any of this looks confusing, don't worry, we'll demonstrate each part. Let's say you want to use a SurveyCTO form to pull data from the CSV file and find the age of Suzanne. The file is called data.csv, so the first parameter is going to be data. We drop the .csv part of the source. Also, since we are using that exact name, it goes in single quotes. So the first parameter is data. The data we want is in the age column, so the second parameter, call name, is age, also in single quotes. In the CSV dataset, the unique identifiers are in the ID_key column, so that will be our lookup call name. Finally, we want the age of the person whose unique identifier is 1002, so 1002 will be our lookup val. We put those together and we have our pull data expression. When used in the calculate field, it will give us the result of 49. Now, for the fourth parameter, which stores the record's unique identifier, you will almost always want to use a field instead of a literal answer. That way, the row you pull can be different for each submission. If you look at this completed expression, we have data for the source, age for the column name with the data, ID underscore key for the column with unique identifiers. For the fourth parameter, we have a call for the value of the field ID, which makes the expression dynamic. We can have a field that asks for the ID of that person, and then expression will pull 18 for 1001, 49 for 1002, and so forth. For the field that asks for the unique identifier, you can use almost any field type, but most of the time, you will want to use the text field. An integer field works most of the time, but if you were to have a unique identifier that begins with a leading 0, then those zeros would be lost. For instance, entering 0, 1, 2, 3 into an integer field would just become 1, 2, 3, no 0. Integers also have a limit of 9 digits, so for longer unique identifiers, the text field will be better. That being said, there are still times where the integer field is still the best one to use. Another good option is the barcode field, where you can scan a barcode or QR code that stores a unique identifier. You can also use a constraint to make sure only numbers are entered. The number pad on mobile allows for dashes and dots, so this can make sure the enumerator does not use those by accident. Even if the unique identifier is not just numbers, you can still use a constraint. For example, if your unique identifier also uses certain letters or maybe has a certain format, you can build a constraint that only accepts an identifier in the proper format. Let's take a look at the dynamic expression in action. Here we have a field that asks for the unique identifier, and I'll enter 1001. It returns John, who is 18 years old. If I go back and enter 1002 instead, the field has changed and I get Suzanne, who is 49. The display also changes for both 1003 and 1004. Whatever is needed for this submission, that dynamic fourth parameter ensures it is ready. It is also possible to retrieve nothing from the preloaded data. When used in a label, this will be represented by the ellipsis, the ... This usually happens when the entered unique identifier does not exist in the data, but can also happen if something in the expression is spelled incorrectly or that column of the record happens to be blank. In this example, the ID of 1005 was entered, but there is no one with that ID. If you'd like, you can create a required note field that is only relevant if the poll data expression cannot pull a value. That way, enumerators cannot go through the form with invalid data. You can even use a call to the unique identifier field to include a link back to the ID entry screen. For the relevance expression of the required note field, simply make it true if the poll data field is null, meaning there is no value. Alright, at this point, you should have at least a decent idea on how the expression works. You can build it manually, but it can be easier to build in the online designer using the wizard. Let's take a look at how to do that. First, prepare the CSV file. Make sure there are good column names. The unique identifier column header ends in _key. The unique identifier column has unique IDs, and anything else you might want to check. You can either attach the CSV file to your form now or later in the wizard, which we'll get to soon. Create a field that stores the unique identifier. This is often a text field, but as you get more used to the process, you can use almost any field type to store the unique identifier. Here, we're going to call it ID. Save it when you're done. Once you have the unique identifier field, create a calculate field and click Configure. The module to create a calculate field will come up. Click the blue Specify with a Wizard button. A new module will appear. Scroll down to it and click the drop-down menu that appears beneath Calculation Type. Select Data Whole Preloaded Data. You can either scroll down to it or type Data to filter the options. Once it's selected, click one of the blue Next buttons. You will see 4 sections, one for each part of the expression. Click Edit to the right of Dataset ID or name of the CSV file. If you have already attached the CSV file, you would select it here. Otherwise, click the blue Upload button to select and attach the CSV file using the method we discussed earlier. Once your CSV file or dataset has been selected, click the blue OK button. Your source has now been selected. Click the text field to the right of Column Name to pull and enter the name of the column containing the data you would like to retrieve. For instance, if you would like to retrieve the name attribute of a record, you would enter name. Also, notice how I did not add the single quotes. The wizard will do this for you. Next, for column name for row lookup, enter the name of the column in the CSV file or dataset containing the unique identifiers. In our case, that would be ID_key. Again, the wizard will fill in the single quotes for you. To the right of Field to use for row lookup, click the drop-down menu to open it. In the drop-down menu that appears, either scroll to and select the field that stores the unique identifier, or start typing its name to narrow down the choices and select it. In this example, the name of the field is ID. Once all parts of the expression are entered, click one of the 2 blue Save buttons. And with that, the wizard will automatically create the expression for you. The wizard was able to automatically fill in the name of the CSV file, data, the column name with the data we want, name, the name of the column with the unique identifiers, ID_key, and the field storing the unique identifier, ID. It has also added in the single quotes where they are needed. With the calculation expression built, go ahead and click on one of the 2 Save Now buttons to save the field. And you're all set. You now have a field that pulls data from a preloaded CSV file. This is a hidden field, so its value will show up in exported data, but the enumerator will not be able to see its value until it is used in a label. Let's take a look at this in practice. In this example, I have already added a note type field to display the value of the pull data expression. First, I'll save the form to the server just in case my web browser or computer crashes. All right, let's start the test. I'll enter 1001. And sure enough, I get John. If I enter 1002, I get Suzanne. If I enter 1005, I get nothing, since there is no one with that unique identifier. I've successfully added and used a pull data expression. Now that we know how to build the pull data expression, let's take a look at some actual ways we might use it. If you would like to come back later and try the example yourself, download the Excel file preload example and the CSV files farm preload and enumerators preload and upload them to your server like this. We'll make these files available when we post the presentation. Oftentimes, when collecting data, it can be important to know which enumerator filled out which submission. You can add the enumerator choice list directly to the form, but if the list of enumerators is often changing, or there is a particularly long list of enumerators, it can be much easier to have them in a separate CSV file or dataset. Here, you can confirm the enumerator by having them enter their enumerator ID. Here, to make sure the enumerator did not mistype their ID, their name is displayed. Using a calculate field called en_name, it used the number that was entered, 101, to pull the name Harry. The IDs were simplified for this example, but you could have more complex IDs so they almost act like a password. Maybe the enumerator ID is 1003AR2 so that no one can accidentally complete a form as Harry. Maybe the enumerator has to scan a barcode to enter their enumerator ID. The field here is a note field that is only relevant if the form does not pull a valid name from the CSV file. You can even click or tap on the screen that was entered to go back to the ID entry screen. Another great use of preloaded data is for following up on a previous survey. In this example, there was a baseline survey last year that asked farmers what crop they planned on growing the most. That information was stored in a data set. In this midline survey, farmers are going to be asked if the crop they grew the most ended up being the most lucrative. First, it asks which farm you are following up on. It is asking for a unique farm number instead of a name in case farmers happen to share a name. You can then pull the name of the farmer to ask for them. The expression below is used to pull the name and is then displayed in this note field. Using the attached dataset, we know which crop the farmer planned on growing the most, even if the farmer does not remember. We can ask the question directly based on that crop. Here, Tahani planned on growing more apples than any other crop. And the crop displayed will change depending on which farmer we choose. Here, we can see that John Yu planned on growing more bananas than any other crop. And that is a general overview of pulling data from a preloaded CSV file or dataset. There's a lot more to learn, so be sure to check out the product documentation as well as the training course we have available.